Just give it a minute. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Trust Funds Commissioners this evening. Today is February 24th. I'm sorry, July 24th. I'm in the winter. It's July 24th, 5 o'clock, 2025. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to which it stands for each. Oh my goodness, did I just mess that up? Forgive me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to ask your forgiveness for that. I've obviously stumbled twice today already. Is it February? I guess not. It's been one of those long days. I would like to begin by just reading some requirements with regard to the open meeting law. I'd like everybody to be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel. It's also on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page. And you can find that at Lunenburg Public Access Cable Facebook. This will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube after the meeting. Additionally, please be advised that the town of Lunenburg utilizes the Zoom platform as a host for its hybrid and remote meetings, that the Zoom platform utilizes AI technology known as AI Companion to create audio transcripts of meetings to aid in the subsequent preparation of meeting minutes, and that AI Companion is activated immediately upon launching the Zoom application. You are hereby notified that this AI technology may capture audio prior to the start of the meeting and/or following the conclusion of the meeting, so please keep in mind there may be a hot mic. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on the notice, which has been posted by the town clerk 48 hours prior to this meeting per statute. Members of the public are welcome to attend this meeting in person. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual progress unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any particular specific item that is on this agenda should make plans for an in-person visit rather than virtual attendance. The following information can also be provided to the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. Participating remotely from a computer, there is a number that you enter in on Zoom. There's also a phone number that you can call in on, and it's the same number with a specific itemized phone number that's on the agenda. The agenda tonight will list all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those that are reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of some of these discussions, but not all items listed may in fact will be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. I'd like to open the meeting with public comment. And do we have any public comment from anybody?
Mr. Chairman?
Sure. Hi, Mr. Rogers.
I'm here because I've lived in town for 50 years.
Do you need me to bring the mic to you? Are you having a hard time standing?
I am, but...
It's okay. Don't, Johnny, can we give him a hand?
Right, John, go ahead.
Dave, we know how to do this. No, that's fine. No, you're not a pain at all. Nobody else does this for you, but we had somebody at town meeting doing it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Could you just do me a favor and follow the proper process, which is your name and...
Sure. My name is Dave Rogers. I live at 82 Highland Street in Lunenburg.
Thank you, David.
And have for 50 years. And I will tell you that in the 50 years, I've never once been to a meeting of the committee that you're the chairman of. So I said, well, this would be a good time for me to go. And I've got a bunch of questions, I'm sure, as it goes through. And I would hope that the committee would allow at some particular point in time, a discussion of things that would make it more understandable, because I really don't know what happened. So anyway, that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I appreciate that. I'd like to, if there's any more public comment, we have any public? I don't see any public on Zoom. Let me just check and verify that, so please wait. Thank you. Okay, I see nobody on Zoom. I see additional public here, but I see no comment. I would like to, at this time, move forward through the agenda. Johnny, you can leave that there for him, because he's going to. Thank you. We can move forward on our agenda. I'd like to ask if there is any public comment from the commission.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to thank the Select Board for hosting and setting aside time on the July 15th meeting to have the Town Council talk about what he saw as the powers and duties of the Commission of Trust Funds. Although it did leave still some open questions on my mind, it helped close some gaps but open others. So I guess one of the challenges that we face as a committee is there are some of the documents that are, undoubtedly, indisputably under our control that we still don't have, what the people's wishes were or what the declarations were. So on a few that's missing, and the town manager made a plea for anybody in the audience, if they ever had anybody who they know would have had some of these documents, to please come forward. And I also would like to make the same request that if anybody's listening that does have some reason, some of these maybe documents that when they were relatives with them were on the commission years ago, to please bring them forward to help us to make so we can become effective in what we're obliged to do. So I just wanted to think that it's good that the Select Board, is raising some visibility to the committee, and I do appreciate them setting aside the time for that topic.
Thank you, Richard.
Sir, what is your name?
Richard Howard.
Sorry?
Richard Howard.
Thank you, Richard.
I also have a public comment that I'd like to make. I'm actually making a comment on the same lines of Richard. The Select Board did invite Adam Costa, the town's attorney, to the Select Board meeting with regard to trying to give a better understanding. As you heard here at public comment, you had somebody ask, what is it that the Trust Funds Commission do? And then there's been some inquiry as to that. So tonight's meeting, actually, we are going to follow through some policy guidelines and things like that to give people a better understanding of what we understand the Trust Fund Commission is. It's part of our agenda today in the discussion, as well as the identification of the funds themselves and who they belong to. And this is some of the work that we've been doing since we've been elected. And it's not very easy to find everything, but we're actually making a lot of progress quite quickly. And I just want to say that I am grateful that the Select Board themselves have done that. I only made one inquiry at that meeting, was there any precedent-set cases that give guidance to the direction of the Trust Funds Commission and what trust funds are specific to the Trust Fund Commission? And there is no precedent case law for that. And so this basically leaves our direction new and possibly challenged. And if it's challenged or questioned, or if we have a challenge or a question, or if the public has a challenge or a question, there are avenues that we can take to be able to make those challenges and to get those questions answered. And that's some of the process that we're able to help facilitate when it comes to our powers and duties here on the commission itself. And that's all I have for public comment. Okay, we have no announcements or communications from any trust representatives. I would just like to let everybody know that our scheduled meetings are every second and fourth Thursday from 5 to 6:30, unless otherwise noted. They will be here in the Bellotta Meeting Room, otherwise noted. There are no reports that we're going to be having this evening from the Treasurer or Finance Director. However, just for the public's information, I have been speaking with Ezekiel and arranging a time for Richard and I to schedule to be able to meet with Bartholomew and Company, who is the private trust company that handles a number of trust funds here including the funds that come under our purview and advisory, and also to meet with, obviously, Ezekiel to discuss the direction and the investment process, and how Mylene is going to handle all that. Mylene is our treasurer. Ezekiel, if people don't know, is our finance director. So I have an update which I would like to mention on the list of trust funds. We're under new business. We also have to discuss additional funds that may fall under the Trust Fund Commission, such as certain scholarship funds which qualify as donations, and also workers' compensation funds, which by statute, workers' compensation funds actually clearly state that the Trust Funds Commission has advisory and oversight of that. So just to give an idea, we are to read the declarations. So what the trust says, the money that's going to be distributed for it, is it being distributed according to the wishes of the people who gave the money? That is under our purview to oversee that for its use, so that it's used properly. And also to make sure that the responsibility of the finances and how they are invested, the rate of return, any penalties that come across, particularly if we're in a pooled fund, and there are other expendable funds that are drawing money before there is a, before the time for with any investment, you know, they tell you 90 days, 6 months, a year, you know, you touch the fund, there's a penalty, and so forth. If you pull money out, there's a penalty. We keep very tight controls on that so that it doesn't affect our funds, as well as how those funds are affected with the rate of return, which is an interest on the entire pool, and how that would specifically be directed to negatively or positively impacting the trust funds that are under our purview, which at this time, there are 5 that we know of. From the town manager's response at the last select board meeting with town council, she said, we only have 1 declaration, and I believe she said that was with the American Legion. So that being said, there is a host of 4 other funds that have to be looked at. And I'm going to go over those right now. I'm going to let you know the research that we have found in researching it, and how we found it, and the ensuing direction that we may have to take as far as the declarations are concerned in the event that these declarations aren't found. But as Richard said, if you've been on a trust fund commission board prior to 2019, there were people on this board. Prior to 2010, 11, you know, there's people that are still in town that have been on this board that I've been able to research that still live here in town that may have some insight on some of these funds. We really do need you to come forward so that we can distribute this money out for the use by the people in town, because that's what this money is for. This money is to be used as the declaration states. And as I go over this, I'll give you, you can get an idea of what these funds probably specifically have to do with. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to just list the 5 funds that we have by name, and then I will give you some background and history of what I found. I'm still, just so you know, Richard, I have contacted the Worcester Probate Court. I have not sent a letter to them requesting their archive person there, who I know personally. I talked to her on the phone last week, and she said that I told her I had to send her a letter because it's from our board. You know, it's a board action, so I want to make sure it's on record. I'm contacting you. And she said that she can research all the way back to when Worcester County was actually, all these towns were all grouped together, and they were like Groton and Fitchburg and this town. She has all the records. It just has to be searched for. So she said it's not a problem, which is good for us. Very good for us. So let me just move into here, if you'll just bear with me a minute. Okay, so the last quarterly report that I received from Ezekiel was on 3/31/25. We're not going to talk too much about the amount of money in the funds, the yields, and so on and so forth. I just want to highlight the names. So we have the American Legion Poor Fund. That's American Legion Poor. I think that can kind of speak for itself, that must help the poor. I have also made a contact and call to the American Legion, and I am awaiting an answer on that. We have the J&M Howard Sidewalk and Grounds Fund. I had done some background research. Mr. Luther Howard was a prominent member in this community back in the late 1800s. His family has been here for probably, I don't know.
No relation.
I was gonna ask. So, Richard's not related. So if you go to the North Cemetery and you walk down Holman Street and you look from the property that's on the corner, which is my home, and you look directly across the street, it's right there on the road. It's a big monument, it says Howard. His family is all buried there. So he created the Howard Sidewalk and Grounds Fund. His sister, Susan Howard, in 1903, when she passed, she created what they call a lady maiden fund, which back in those days, a lady maiden was somebody who was widowed, somebody who was single, unmarried, and had no support of a man at the time. Different times, different strokes. So in that, I don't know, that's some history about the family and what the family has provided. And just so you know, that I do have the information that Susan gave $2,000 in 1903 to the town for the Lady Maiden Fund, which we don't have here. There's no Lady Maiden Fund except for what I'm going to discuss with you next. But the J&M Howard Sidewalk and Grounds Fund, not sure if that's the same Howard family, but he does have a son, John, and a son, Jacob. I haven't been able to find anybody with the name M. I know that they have some family buried in Springfield and some family buried in Vermont. However, I've only found John and Jacob who are buried here. So, and I think, I'm not sure if there's a Jeremy, but I think I was reading something else, but just for clarity, I know there was a John and a Jacob. So this fund here, the Sidewalk and Grounds Fund probably had to do with, we had dirt roads here. Sidewalks may have been boardwalks for the country store, you know what I mean? So that they were off the road, because that's what roads were. There were no cars. So in the 1800s, they didn't have a bunch of cars driving around. So that is possibly what this fund is. And just so everybody knows, that I don't know what the investment to that fund has been, but it has peaked itself. I'm just going to give you the beginning market value is $21,000. That's for Sidewalk and Grounds. American Legion is at $12,000, and that's just the beginning market value. I'm not going to give you the exact balance. We'll talk about that another time. So then we have the Worthy Poor Income. The Worthy Poor Income Fund is $22,501 and some change. So that's the fund that I believe that, as I'm researching, that may have been created by Susan, because when I look at the values between the J.M. Howard Sidewalk and Grounds Fund and the Worthy Poor Income Fund, and if you try to do some backtracking in mathematics, which is kind of insane, but I did a little bit of it, and you look at interest rates over time and how these funds may have been kept in just a savings account, it's kind of balancing out to that amount of money over that many years.
Okay.
So I don't know how often it was used. I don't have that information, but it's called the Worthy Poor Income. We have the Gazebo Restoration Fund. So with the Gazebo Restoration Fund. The original gazebo in Lunenburg is over here in the guy's yard on the corner of Oak Ave and Main Street. That is the original gazebo, okay? Don't be confused with the gazebo that is over here. So there's a fund here. I envision that this was to maintain the restoration of that gazebo, and this is just an assumption, as opposed to this gazebo. And I'll talk to you about the process that I talked when I talked to the chief counsel at the Division of Local Services with regard to being able to make these trusts legal so that we can use the money, so that they comply with DOR. Okay? And then we have Lunenburg Post number 283. Okay? So, that has $8,543 some change in it. Okay? The Lunenburg Post 283. So there was an auxiliary post here, an auxiliary American Legion post here back in 2011. It was not active, but I do have some information that I'm going to go over with regard to that issue on the research I did, including reading back in through the Secretary of State's office, Corporations Registration Division for nonprofits under Chapter 56B, and I looked through there. Sorry, is it 56B? Yeah, I think. I get the corporate ones. Yes. So anyways, so I did the research and I found it in 2 addresses. So I'll go over that, the 2 addresses in town where this actual post is actually, somebody had registered it there in 2000, I'll go over that, I believe it was in 2011, the recent filing for Post 283 was dissolved by the Secretary of State. It was an involuntary dissolution for a failure to file Form 990 documents. So that meant that it took 3 years, which means that in 2006, somebody in this community had registered Post 283. So if you give me a minute, I will go over that with you in the research that I have found. You'll have to bear with me. When you get 1,000 phone calls, you get 1,000 notes. So, Lunenburg Post 283. It was called Mass 1462 Legion Post number 283. And it was the American Legion Incorporated, and that was located at 25 Memorial Drive in Lunenburg by Ed Arnold Jr. I found they actually had a little website, just a little one-page thing. But I found them also registered with the Secretary of State. And it was the American Legion Auxiliary Post number 283, revoked in May of 2010. Failure to file 3 years, for 3 years, their 990 return. It was a permanent revocation. That's just a standard thing. If you have a business, you file a business, you don't file paperwork for a certain number of years, the Secretary of the Commonwealth automatically dissolves your business, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit, LLC, LLP, incorporation, or whatever kind of structure that you've decided to use. So in that, the permanent revocation was on June 9th, 2011. So I found the EIN number. I did find the EIN number. I'm going to hand this information out. I just want folks to know that there are, and I actually subscribe to, because I have investments, I subscribe to corporation, and, you know, they're leading in, you know, through different there's different groups that I subscribe to, that I get information about companies, corporations, emails, phone numbers, you know, of people and authority and so on and so forth, including acquiring public record information like EIN numbers or TIN numbers and things like that. So I have that personal access. That's not how I acquired this one, but I did do some research with that. And it's very hard to find stuff that's very old. So I just want everybody to know that it's not very easy to do this, and it takes time. okay? So I'm going to read the EIN number out because there's nothing wrong with me reading it out. You can look it up on the internet if you want. It's posted. The EIN number is 04-6073-443. The reason why I'm handing out all this information is because the town manager said, find something and somebody come forward. I need people to come forward so that we can get, your thoughts, because I'll explain the legal process of how we would have to go to probate court if we don't have any information, if it's necessary. I want to also let you know that I'm gonna comment on some individual people, and with all due respect to them, they have passed, but they had involvements with Post 283. But people may know them because they're local, and that maybe there's something that they have that maybe somebody else knows. So this is more research that I've done. There was a woman, her name was Alice Oksanen. It's Oksanen. Formerly, her maiden was Rajala, Rajala. She was a member of Post 283. She died October 30th, 2022, and she was formerly of 233 West Townsend Road here in Lunenburg. She was also the founder of the first Brownie Troop. So this is, some relevant information, historical context. The other address of which came up outside of 25 Memorial Drive in Ed Arnold's name for Post 283 was 55 Maple Parkway. So there is a registration at 55 Maple Parkway, which is tied to an EIN number. And this is how I've been able to connect things to different people to find out who lived at 55 Maple Parkway by researching the Registry of Deeds, going as far back as the computer, unless you go back to 1949, but I can ask for some specific information back further than that. Mostly with some of the properties are on there from further back, but I have to go to the Worcester South Registry of Deeds to find those, because that's where they were all held before they came here to Fitchburg. So in that, there's some additional research that I have to do with that to be able to find that. But this person was a member of Post 283. And, if somebody knows her, knows the address, maybe lives in the home on West Townsend Road, bought it from the family, I'm not sure. I didn't get that deep. I'm not trying to pry into people's private lives by doing investigative work on individuals, but I'm very good at investigating. So I just want, I want to make sure that people have their privacy, and I'm not here sitting there spilling out everybody's privacy. I'm asking specifics so that people understand that I'm only going so far without having to go too deep. It would be easier to have us as residents have the information without having to use the attorney to be able to have to file in probate court to get specific orders to be able to operate these funds. Let me see here. And just so you know, Ms. Oksanen also requested in her obit that donate in lieu of flowers to the Lunenburg Fire Association. So I know that there's somebody at the Lunenburg Fire Department at some point in time that's connected to her, that somebody may know somebody. I found a couple of other names connected to properties, as I had mentioned. There's Josephine Bouvier. There was an estate tax lien on February 2nd, 1987 on one of the properties. And there was a Francis Bouvier, and that was in 1951. So just so you know how far back it actually goes. Has owned the property since 1951, a Francis Bouvier, and I believe that was 55 Maple Street, where the post 238 is registered. So that is as far as I got with those funds. I believe, as I had said earlier, that the worthy poor, I have reason and cause to believe, which I acquired some of that information from a posting from the Lunenburg Historical Society. Good for you guys. They actually know who Luther Howard is, and they know who Susan Howard is at the Historical Society. So that's a very important aspect, because there's probably some historical information that the Historical Commission would have. The worthy poor, I believe, belongs to Susan Howard. As I said, from 1903, she gave a donation of $2,000. That's in the information that I acquired from the Lunenburg Historical Society, as well as Luther Howard being the one who established the sidewalk fund. So there is information somewhere in town with regard to the J&M Howard Sidewalk Fund. So with that in mind, isn't that great? That's boring. That's called background research. It just takes a long time. So I'm not trying to bore you out of the meeting. I just want everybody to know that this board has been working diligently since we have been elected to make sure that this board operates correctly, that it operates within the rule of law, and that the money is being dispersed and receiving the rate of return that it's deserving to receive. Sorry, I had to fix something.
So I should mention that all this research that has been done by Chair Bowen. He took this entirely on by himself and did all this research. I guess a more moral support when it came to a lot of this groundwork. So I just want to make sure that the acknowledgement is on Chair Bowen for all the work, trying to get to the bottom of these mysteries that we kind of are faced with. So I think it's important that the credit go to where credit's due.
Thank you. I'm glad to do it. It's not that difficult for me. I've been doing it for years. So, and I'm grateful to do it because it's obviously something that goes, that people have donated money. I know my father-in-law has donated money to this town, do you know what I mean, to help and benefit the town. And I know a lot of other people in town that have donated not just money, but time. Do you know what I mean? And those people should be recognized, but these people took their hard-earned money and put it into a trust fund and said, hey, maybe I can't come and I can't volunteer, but here's some money. And just as an aside, I would like everybody to be reminded that in May, it seemed to have fallen off the select board's radar. In May, the select board and the town manager were talking about a donation fund to be able to receive donations to the town for anybody that would like to give a gift. And in doing so, you know, maybe you can't donate time, but you could donate, you know, your money. And that benefits to help certain groups. And you could say, I'd like to create this particular fund. I'd like it to be a trust. I'd like it to go to this group of people or that group of people. And from my understanding of talking to the Department of Revenue, they said that unlike if you gave a donation to the cemetery, you wouldn't be able to write that off on your taxes. But if you were to give a donation and put it into a trust with us, it is tax deductible. So there is an asset value, you know, to somebody who would like to give to the town. And whatever that declaration of trust is would be under our purview and oversight to make sure that it was enforced, to make sure that the money was used for what it was intended for. I don't know if people understand, but, you know, when something says, you know, this is a fund for planting grass, trees, putting ornaments up and things like that, you don't go buying computer programs. You just don't do that. That's not part of what that money is to be used for. People need to keep that in mind. You know, if conservation or something like that says that this is for cleaning up trash and paying help to clean up trash in the trails around the community, it doesn't say you can clean up the trash for the trails by buying a machine. Do you see my point? It doesn't say buy a machine to pick up the trash. You can't interpret it that way. It says It's used to be able to pick up the trash, which would be what? Probably taking volunteers, picking up bags maybe, to be able to collect the trash. You know, maybe it's for paying some money to, DPW to cover the cost of using a dump truck. I mean, I don't think that they would charge for that, but I'm just saying on that premise. But that's what basically we're to do. It's to be brought before us. We're to look at the declaration, make sure that the money that's being requested is being used properly per the declaration and the parameters of that trust, okay? If it was bequeathed by somebody in their will, it would go by that parameter. If it was given to us and there are specific parameters by the donor of what it's to be used for, then it can't be used for anything else. And there's nothing wrong with us holding a fund. So we can hold a fund. So if you wanted to, build a sidewalk that goes down to Marshall Park, and you wanted to establish your own fund for that, you could put $175,000 into that project as a donation. And then let's say somebody else says, hey, I think that's a great idea. Can I add to that particular fund? And as long as the parameter of the trust says that the trust is open to accept additional monies from additional donors, then okay, now we take additional donors and then we can fund a sidewalk down to Marshall Park. It's that simple. And it comes in, you can write it off. It's a tax write-off. So it's not like, giving it to a commission or a board. You can't get that write-off. You're giving it to the treasurer of the town that we're overseeing the use of that fund so that it makes sure that your money is being used the way you want your money to be used. So it's a very important oversight, so that it's like a protectorate. We're trustees. It's a protectorate. It's also advisory when it comes to funds that don't have specific parameters, or we can't find out what those specific parameters. We can advise on those parameters and say, well, it says sidewalk and grounds fund. Okay, outside of the legal steps that need to be taken, we can say to the court, well, we believe it has to do with Mr. Luther from 1903, and they had boardwalk sidewalks, and they didn't have people to take care of the grounds, you know what I mean, just in the little downtown area, because all there was a gas station over here, a trolley over here, you know what I mean? And, you had the general store over here, the church over here. I mean, that was it. This was your epicenter, of the community. You came here and you bought your goods at the store and you picked up your things, and this is where you were at. So in that, maybe it was just to cover this one local area, So, I mean, these are the things that we have to look at when we start deciding about how are we going to use the money. How is it going to be legally cleared, and what is it that we're going to be able to do with that money? So that being said, I want to just kind of open the board up for any questions with regard to what I just explained and the information that I just provided. If you have anything else to add, Richard.
No, just that these details are critical, because we could be in violation of what these declarations are saying. They may say every year you must distribute the earnings from the previous year for these purposes, and that hasn't been done. So we could, not unwillingly in violation. We're not, blatantly, overtly doing it, but we don't know. Until we know, we don't know if we're, in violation or in compliance. So. The work that's been done is really critical to get to the point where we can now start really executing to the obligations and fulfilling people's wishes when they made these donations.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Dave.
If I might, this whole process could be very extensive, to say the least. But there has got to be some state agency that could advise your board, because there are rules and regulations and what have you. And even something that you said, that the Secretary of State said, if nothing is filed in 3 years, something happens to that fund.
Well, no, so that wasn't the fund. That was the organizational structure of Post 238.
I got you.
That was just the legal structure at the Secretary of State. They have nothing to do with the funds. So the people that have to do with the funds is the Department of Revenue and the Department of the Treasury, but the oversight of those funds are done by whatever the trust document was. So that's why these funds have been sitting here. They're just sitting here. So they have what they call the Cypress Doctrine. So just to explain, okay, these are in relations to charities and trusts, okay, not for private benefits.
Right.
And there's a process through the Cypress Doctrine that you go to probate court and you say, look, we don't have all the information, but we have reason and cause to believe, but there's some research that has to go back through that. We know about Luther Howard. We know about Susan Howard, okay? What do we know about what they were and who they were in town? And how do we present that? And what is a worthy, what does it mean for the language worthy poor? The other issue is that I don't know if the treasurer can tell this because I have not spoken with her on this. We have plans to, but how old and far back does she have in paper record, not just computer media, of these funds? Because they've had to go from bank to bank to bank to bank for her to say, this is what I got. So she's also, has some researching to do, which I know from what my understanding was, she's doing some of it. But, in order to be able to use these, it has to get done. The longer these funds stay stagnant, the more interest we lose in the pool. Okay, so, and the longer that they, so you're losing your rate of return. Right now, we're at 2.4% on the pooled fund.
Right.
We've had this since October to be able to invest like this.
Right.
And before that, we had the ability to be able to invest with the 20 list. There's like a list of 20 funds that they could have done if they did 203 beforehand. And now they were limited. But at 2.25%, Bartholomew and Company told the Budget Task Force, they specifically told the Budget Task Force that I don't know why you're investing in all pharmaceuticals. Majority of you are in pharmaceuticals. It's ridiculous. I heard a statement the other day about that. A guy from our president, he says he knows a guy, he's very fat, okay, and he takes the fat drug, he says, Ozempic. And he says, I'm in England, I pay $88 for it. I'm in America, I pay $1,300 for it. There's a problem. Do you know what I mean? And the problem is because pharmaceuticals are foreign companies. And do you see my point? And so why are we getting such low interest rate on pharmaceuticals? I don't know, maybe because they're in Europe and they're not here in America. And so, this is what has to be looked at as well, that we have to talk to Bartholomew and Company when it comes to our funds. Okay, is what we need to invest in funds that give and make those adjustments and alterations quarterly, biannually, okay, or yearly, depending upon, what the interest rate fluctuation is of the present market, and we have to look at that. And it's not something that you can just go, oh, we're just going to leave it at 60-40 and play the safe game, for the next 10 years. The whole point of 203C and adopting it was to be able to engage in a little bit more risk, right, in a selective amount of funds. Now, you can't use operating funds for that. You can't use certain agency funds for that. You can't use OPEB. You can't use any of those funds.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That's for the Finance Committee to deal with, not us. Do you know what I mean?
What's the grand total of the monies that we're talking about?
I can tell you that.
You can't?
I can.
Oh,
Let's see. So, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to have to write it down, so hold on a second. So I have the grand total that we have in our, under our purview, the grand total is, and this is with all interest included, $77,003, and if I'm reading that correctly, 93 cents.
okay.
That's all those funds compiled together.
All right. My unsophisticated look-see at this is that it's sure, 77,000 is a lot of money to some. But the issue, from my perspective, is to get the housekeeping done.
Yeah.
Get it squared away, okay?
Well, there's a pool fund, so this is pooled, just so you're aware. This is pooled with other funds. So when
Yeah.
other funds use money, it affects our money still. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
So without having limitations on the investments. So you have conservation, cemetery, sale lots, perpetual care, and a number of conservation funds in here totaling $1,454,369.57, if I'm reading that correctly.
Say that again, please.
Okay, so there are other funds here in the pool. The pool has conservation funds and cemetery funds. Cemetery perpetual care, the C. Allen Headstone Fund. I'm a little concerned about what that is, if that's a specific identifiable trust and how that's handled, not sure. But I'll talk to Adam Costa.
And how much is the aggregate total?
The aggregate total is $1,454,369.67. It's kind of hard to read it because I have to
Sure.
blow it up on the computer because the thing is like miniature.
Yeah.
Even when oh, there we go, I got it. Yep, $1,454,369.67. I was right. So that's the total pool. So in that, these are all traded in a pool at
Yeah.
2.4% yield.
Right. And where are they,
2.54.
where are they right now?
They're at 2.54%.
No, where are the funds right now?
Oh, conservation has them. They're with the treasurer and the cemetery fund.
Treasurer here?
Yes.
Okay,
The treasurer has all these funds.
okay.
So
Now,
the
does
thing is, so here's the thing. So these funds are with the treasurer, but they're being traded by Bartholomew and Company.
Okay.
They're the private trust company.
Yeah, okay. Now, the 77,000 that you referenced, is that part of the 1,400,000?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, so there, it's all part of that?
Yep, it's all part of that.
The aggregate is the 1,000,000 whatever?
That's correct.
Okay,
And so now when, let's say, cemetery says, I need $3,000 for this, and they just want to pull it out this month, there's a penalty. That penalty gets paid to Bartholomew.
say that again.
That penalty, part of that penalty gets paid to the private trust company that's handling and managing the investment, part of it. And then I think part of it,
Effectively gets shared amongst all.
and it gets shared amongst all the funds. Okay, so it goes against everybody if they take it out of, like Bartholomew Company was like, well, let's take it out of the interest. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, wait a minute, whoa, whoa, whoa. So if you get somebody that gets a penalty, it's not coming out of their principal, it's coming out of the interest. So the interest that, particularly the smaller funds, would suffer more than the larger funds.
Yeah.
Okay, and without a hedging principle, okay, to be able to hedge, to be able to help the smaller funds, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We can't continue to grow our funds quickly unless we can hedge based on a point scale for how much money actually, is needed for each fund to balance the funds out, so that the smaller funds are actually generating more income based on the lack of donation. And if we can hedge that, and I don't know how that would be able to work with them, okay, but if we were able to hedge that with the interest from the other funds to be able to increase our money, okay, principal, through hedging, that means now we're all balancing out. So you might have a fund here that takes in $50,000 a year. Let's say you have 8 funds that take in $50,000 a year, 60, 75, 80,000 a year. Our funds take in 5,000, 10,000. It's going to take forever for our funds to be able to get up to the level to be able to provide more, unless we hedge.
Well, it's apparent to me, and believe me, I'm not an expert in this, it's just, I have a working knowledge of finances. But it's apparent to me that the major hurdle that we have to go over here is to find out what we have, where it's at, and if there is specific instructions as to the management of those funds. And if not, then there's got to be some way that this committee can petition the Secretary of State and the Department of Revenue as to what they can advise us in terms of doing the housekeeping.
They can't.
Huh?
They can't. So
Okay.
I talked to the Division of Local Services. So in order to handle the housekeeping is in-house. So,
Here?
yeah, it's all here. It's with the treasurer. So the housekeeping happens with the local accountant. I talked to him this afternoon. I talked to
Okay.
Ken this afternoon. He said that all the situations and issues of accounting are handled through the finance director. He's the town's accountant. So he's the one that has to, you know what I mean, come up with all of this.
Yeah.
Okay? And the thing is that we can't, we cannot have penalties be taken from interest. This is where, I know he mentioned that at the last meeting, says, we can't have penalties coming against us. He said it at the last meeting, and I'm in agreement with that. That, you know, if you are a mismanaged group, if your cemetery is mismanaged financially and you don't have a plan when to pull money out, how to pull money out based on what Bartholomew and Company has for a schedule of investment, okay, for the investment cycle, and you pull money out, then that money should come out of your principal. That's just my opinion and my thought, so that everybody else isn't paying for your penalty because of your mismanagement. Then this is what I mean. This is the housekeeping that needs to be done. So same thing with conservation. We have their land purchase fund. We have the R. Burton Conservation, the H. Benjamin Conservation, the G. Hubbard Conservation, and the I. Kimball Conservation, Sean H. Kelly Estate Fund.
What did town council say about this?
Oh, town council just said that we have these funds, and that's what we deal with. So we're dealing with. We have just the 5 funds on the bottom that we deal with. But we're in the pool. Town council's not an accountant. Ezekiel has to let us know.
Yeah.
You know, Bartholomew and Company has to let us know, and we're in the works of doing that. So that's actually part of our agenda to discuss, is figuring out a day to meet and have Bartholomew and Company come here with a list of questions that we've been compiling for him, so that he has
Is
it.
this something that Bartholomew and Company can oversee?
Well, here's the thing. So it depends on the contract. The person with the contract is the treasurer. The treasurer has to come here and say, this is what the contract says that we have with Bartholomew. Bartholomew has to say, well, we could probably do more for you, but you'd have to pay more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's all contract talk.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously, you know, if you want to pay somebody more money, they're not going to say, well, our contract is, you know, it's like, oh, absolutely, we'll add it.
This whole thing has to be cleaned up before.
Absolutely. Well, really? I think all the departments need to be cleaned up, David.
Yeah.
They need to people need to start budgeting their money. People need to start having a plan, and I've been saying this for 3 years as a resident, okay? That you need to have a 5-year plan written out, you know, designed by your board, that this is what we're gonna do this year, this year, this year, this year, and then you're gonna make the adjustments according to the revenues. And other than that, you set your 5-year plan, okay? You don't sit there and say, you know, this is what we want the most of. That's not how you set a plan. You look at your money, you figure out what your rate of return is, you guesstimate what you're gonna take in for income, and then you start planning. And you say, this is what we're gonna do year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the problem. These funds should not, cemetery funds, conservation funds, and these miscellaneous funds should not drop below a certain number to make sure that the pool stays funded.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been done yet.
Well, the town treasurer can advise us, I think, on that.
Not necessarily. That would be Bartholomew and Company. Bartholomew and Company will advise us on, you know, how low you can go before you start losing money as opposed to gaining money. The private trust company. They're the ones with all the numbers for the investment cycles.
Okay.
They have the historical data.
All right. Well,
The-
somebody's got to clean up this mess.
That's correct.
Right?
And I shouldn't be spearheading it, but I am a little bit. This should be the, and this isn't to slam the finance committee, but this should be the select board's presentation that they received, okay, from the budget task force, okay, by Mr. Scullambrini, okay, in a presentation about how to get this done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And they were given direction, take some action. Start stepping up, step up the game, because money's coming quick, and we're gonna pay a lot next year. We're gonna pay a lot next year. You
Pay a
cannot
lot.
pay a lot more in tax, or you're gonna have a lot more cuts. I can almost guarantee it.
You lost me.
I said that I says from my personal direction that I see this town doing, next year you're gonna have more cuts and you're gonna have.
budget.
Yeah, all over, yeah.
Okay,
So,
all right.
so
I thought you meant-
yeah, but I'm saying to you is that if departments don't level themselves off with budgets
Yeah.
themselves, Parks Commission.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Perpetual care funds and sale of lots funds and conservation funds and our funds, and we don't have a plan. If there's no plan, how is it that this town is going to be able to sit there and justify, okay, increasing our taxes in the next year? And how are they going to justify the losing of money in these funds like they have been? We've been losing daily money in these funds since October.
I respectfully disagree. We haven't lost anything.
Oh, we did.
wait,
So we're at
no,
2.54%, David.
Huh?
We're at 2.54%.
Fine.
Hold on. We have been told since special town meeting that we can invest these funds prudent, okay, under 203C. We haven't done it. They put them into a pool, but they never did anything with the yield. So they're at the same place that you were as before, and this economy is doing a lot better. And every day, this goes on a daily rate. This is how this is handled in a pool. It's on a daily rate. You get a daily rate, okay, then you get a monthly rate, then a quarterly rate, okay, and then an annual rate. And then the reality is that at 2.54% for the last 8 months is 16%. Well, we could be, 2.54% is like 0.25% a month. We could be at 16% right now.
Well, I don't know about that, but specifically, what I took exception to, your statement was that we didn't lose, per se. We lost the opportunity to invest it at a higher yield.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's-
So that's losing money.
Yeah.
What?
That's losing money.
Well, even, John, when I sent you that information on what New Harbor did,
Right.
they are a very diversified fund. They did the four-quarter yield. I didn't send you that, but it was 9.5.
9.5.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, could you explain?
We were
Richard's
talking-
going to do a lot better with it.
No, I mean, I'm not a licensed investment advisor. I'm not a certified financial planner. My exposure to the financial services industry was a 3-month internship at Payne Webber in college. But I've been working in accounting for the past 39 years. So, but I do follow a lot of very smart people, people like Jim Rogers, Mike Pinto, Mark Farber, all these Stephanie Pomboy, David Stockman, who were really, I think, say, outside of the conventional financial services
Right.
industry, conventional wisdom of the market's going to go up forever type mentality. And one of the principals who's often talked on one of these YouTube channels that I watch is New Harbor Financial. They're based now out of Worcester. They used to be in Leominster. But they're a portfolio management company, and they have a very diversified, they're investing in gold. T-bills, gold, energy, a very diversified, it's more risky than a CD. It's more risky than a T-bill. But, they returned almost 10% over the past 4 quarters, the same period of time where we got 2.54.
0.4.
I understand the
So that
concept.
7% difference, had we taken different directions,
Right.
is lost money, I think.
That's
To speak for the chairman.
Lost
It says
the opportunity.
We lost the opportunity to make more,
Right.
yes, as opposed to like losing money.
From and
Oh, I understand, now it's clear.
But in-
My-
but in the
my
context of
apologies.
the-
Correct, so we didn't lose any money from our funds.
But in the
what we did was we didn't gain because of our lack of action.
But in the
Very good.
context of inflation, we lost money, because inflation was 9%,
Right,
and we got
yeah.
2, so we lost 7, if you want to look at it that way. And, this dialogue makes me wonder, Mr. Rogers, if you'd be a great third member.
I love you,
No,
Rich.
thank
Oh,
you.
come on, Dave.
No. Let me tell you, my cardiologist told me
Oh, yeah.
not to buy any
I know.
bananas and don't go long on your stocks. Okay, so thank you. I am retired,
I know, Dave.
but I understand.
Done plenty.
So-
Dave, you've done plenty here.
And I really don't.
Time to retire.
I think Bartholomew and Company should be able to advise you.
Absolutely.
Huh? What you do.
Absolutely.
This is what you do. Boom, 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 get it all squared away. so
I
you can
agree.
Move ahead.
I agree.
Yeah. So, but that's, I don't for a second want to tell you that I am conversed with all of the
No.
nuances of this, because this is.
No, Dave, the reason why that, I've allowed this communication is because I know your banking experience.
Right.
Okay? You're also my neighbor.
Right.
Okay? And, my wife was running around as a little kid, you know what I mean, when, in the
Getting ice
neighborhood.
cream at Rogers.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's one of those things where I know your background from, speaking with my wife, and, also watching you in town and listening.
Yeah.
So the reason why I've allowed a lot of latitude with this discussion with the
Yeah.
public is because I know you have a lot
Plus,
to offer.
there's not a plethora of people.
There's not a plethora of public here,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
but like I said, is that, this is what I want from the public, and so
Yeah.
doesn't Richard.
Yeah.
Why is everybody being quiet?
They don't know.
They should come here and ask questions.
Right.
We want them
And,
here.
and I want you to know that I don't know about this.
Correct.
This is not my area of expertise, but, I'm concerned about it because, as I said, 50 years, I've never been to a meeting. I said, it's about time you do that, so.
You have to have a little bit of ADD to do this.
Yeah.
So you got to have some understanding of law.
Yeah.
You have to have understanding of policy and regulation.
Yeah.
You have to have a little bit of understanding of investment, and you have to have a little understanding of accounting. So you don't have to be an expert, but you have to have some sort of balance of all that understanding to become
Yeah.
a member of this board, to be able to be effective.
It would
And-
seem, it would seem to me that Bartholomew and Company could advise us, but there's got to be a way that a capable lawyer could come up with 2 paragraphs that said, notwithstanding the fact that we don't have definite data on these accounts, there is a proviso that we can do this, and the purpose of this is to, clear the slate so that we can move forward and do it the right way.
But again, I'll say this to you again, Dave. So we're one part of an entire pool.
Yeah.
And if the other pooled accounts are not well managed,
Yeah.
it's going to affect this part.
Now, what do you mean the other pools?
Oh, so the other groups that are in the pool is the Conservation Commission and the cemetery.
In here?
Yeah, they're in
Yeah.
this pool,
So-
but we don't have any authority over any of that.
Well,
But they have money in the pool that we're
Sure.
in.
Okay.
So if they're mismanaged in their pool that causes fees,
Yeah.
that affects the whole pool.
Right.
So failure to manage, okay, by boards not taking,
Yeah.
taking the responsibility to put together a 5-year financial plan.
I'm not sure, just my editorial comment, I'm not sure that they're capable of doing that. And not because they're not smart people. This is a specialized way to.
And I've said that too, and I said, why is it that you're not handing this board this stuff to do this stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, to
And I
work
don't
this
think
stuff
the
out and be
board-
helpful.
I honestly don't think that that this board is necessarily, should be involved in the day-to-day, selecting stuff. That's for the pros.
Well, that's what Bartholomew and Company does.
Exactly,
So the
exactly.
thing is that, but we're advisory to that.
Right.
So that's it. We're advisory to
Yeah.
that. They say, hey, listen, this is what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Because this is what we see from historical.
Yeah.
Up in, and we say, hey.
Hey, sounds
okay.
good to me.
Well, but we want to be able to back check that too by doing our own research online and by having other discussions
Well-
before making decisions.
Right, we don't want to be picking individual stocks, saying.
No, are you
"Oh,
crazy?"
Nvidia, buy this, sell that.
Not interested.
But
Be yelling at me for losing something.
right, it would be a terrible feeling to be your decisions caused.
Yeah.
It's
I'm not
actually lose
bonded
money.
to make that decision.
Right.
Yeah.
The first and primary function of, from my standpoint, from what you folks are charged with doing, is to do investments that will not lose
Correct.
money.
But that has to do with monitoring it every quarter.
Well, that's what Bartholomew.
But not necessarily, that's what we
Well,
do,
you're
with our
smart guy,
funds.
but You're not that smart.
With our funds, because if we see that no, we don't make the decision, we make the advice. What we do is we give the advisory of that decision, okay? So instead of staying at 60/40, which is 60 treasury bonds and stuff, and 40 paper, which is where we're at now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you're at that, okay, you're not gonna make anything, okay? You have to look at the overall market and what we're allowed to invest in.
And that's where the pros come in.
That's correct, but they have to come to the town and tell us this is their direction, and that's
Yeah.
what we do here.
Gotcha.
They come and say, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So that the town is aware every quarter about what's going on with your invested pool.
Well, this may or may not be a good analogy, but like us all, if you have any investments, your investment advisor will get in touch with you and say, hey, Dave, you know, blah, 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 maybe you want to put this in there, yeah, that kind of stuff.
I think that's more of a broker.
Well, yeah.
I don't think they're brokers.
No, they're not brokers, but they're advisors, and there's a
Yes.
big difference, you know? Anyway, this is out of my realm. I'm not here to...
Are you satisfied with our responses to you?
Oh,
Did we
yeah.
give you enough information?
No,
We want, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give the public as much information as we can.
I think, very succinctly, the best thing that this group can do is hire the very best people to advise you, and you then reasonably look at it, check it with a couple of people, and make a decision.
Well, if you want to hire somebody that's going to be more money, you have to talk to the
No,
select
they
board.
do it for nothing. They do it for nothing. I mean, it's all part of the service that they do,
Yeah,
you know.
but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, this is out
get
of
the-
my realm, and I didn't really come here to do anything other than find out what's going on.
No, that's fine, that's
I
fine.
don't want anybody to think that I, know a lot about this. You know, my wife is a hell of a lot better at investing than I am, but, anyway, that's what I was here for.
No, we appreciate it, Dave.
Yeah.
You know-
Now, let me move on, because you guys have other things to do. And I'm going to give you respectfully, I want to give you a public comment policy concern, okay? On the, geez, I'm having a senior moment here. On the agenda that you put together, you said, per policy, public comment will be decided at the discretion of the chair. Please note that public comment is not required by law and may, at times, not be permitted for any reason.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
law.
That's
That's law. So public policy, okay, public comment is always at the discretion of the chair, okay, at any meeting. It would be suicide for me to say no public comment politically, okay? Not just politically, but also respectfully to people in town who I live with, okay? So, but the way that the other one was written that I had read is actually not the law. The law is, public comment will be decided at the discretion of the chair, that's the law. But note that the law is not required to provide public comment at public meetings. There's no law that gives you a right to have a public comment. There's no,
I understand that.
so we wrote it according to the law,
Well, just let me tell you.
but you'll always get one here.
Yeah. The most important
You know what I
thing
mean?
you can do is to have communication.
I agree.
With your constituents.
And what are we doing?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, if you make arbitrary and capricious decisions relative to who can speak and all that kind of stuff, we're in trouble.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I don't disagree with that. I just, like I said, where is everybody?
Yeah.
Why is there 200 people at town meeting?
Yeah.
Why is there 60 people at a caucus? You heard me say it.
Yeah.
Okay? I am against that with 13,000 residents in this town. It's disgusting.
Well, what we have to do is to, make it available to people so that they can come and participate if they want, and explain to them why it's important, because it's your tax dollar. Your
Correct.
town, blah, blah,
And
blah.
that's why we say, we have a vacancy, where are you?
Yeah.
Step up,
Right.
right? But come with some skills and requirements that you can bring to the table.
Sure.
Because it's going to benefit the community. You don't just need to volunteer to fill a seat to have a board. We
Absolutely.
want somebody to be able to get something done with us.
The other thing too, and I'm giving you constructive criticism from my perspective. I pray to God that you get to a position where you don't have to have 2 meetings a month.
I know.
This is crazy.
And that's why we have to have 2 meetings a month, is because of the disorganization of this.
Well, that's it. Thank you for allowing me to talk, and
You're awesome, Dave.
good luck.
Anytime. Thank you, we're going to need it.
And it's nice meeting you. I haven't had the
I was on the
benefit of-
Finance Committee, Dave, in 1999 to 2005, so I do remember you.
I was on the Finance Committee then.
Well, you would come to when you were selectman, you would,
Oh, I was
Yeah,
a selectman then,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Worst job I ever had.
but it's been 20 years.
Really? Terrible. Terrible.
I do appreciate you coming
The
tonight.
Finance Committee, and, you know, but anyway, I was happy to help, but, you know,
Sure.
you gotta know when to hold them, know when to
When to
fold
fold
them.
'em, know when to walk away.
When the hell to get out. Yeah. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Dave.
All right.
Thank you. Johnny's here, he can help you.
John, you're a hell of a guy. Yep.
All right. That was very spirited. So this is what we want. We want to hear from the public. And like I said, I know that we kind of we allowed Dave to take up some time, but Dave had pertinent questions that were definitely important to be able to direct a better understanding and be able to see and hear and understand the communication from this end of what we're trying to do. So everybody needs to collaborate in this town, between the town manager's office, the treasurer's office, the finance director, ourselves, you know what I mean, and the select board about, you know, getting this stuff done. So I do want to move on to the next portion of our agenda, and that would be discussing proposed written policy. We went through the investigation of the existing 5 funds, an update on the list of trust funds. We did have some public comment. We had some public engagement. So that took a little bit of time, which is fine. This is what I want. I want people in this room asking questions and wondering why. Discuss proposed written policy. Okay, so we wrote policy. Starting to feel French. Oui, oui. So, we have developed basically a risk mitigation and best practices policy with regard to the handling of the funds under our purview. The policy itself has a few key aspects that I'm just going to go over real quickly. The document that we have here, and again, this will be, when it's approved or voted on, we will post it. This document outlines the risk mitigation and best practices policy for the town of Lunenburg's Board of Trust Fund Commissioners. These are the key aspects. Insurance, that the private trust company Bartholomew and Company manages investments and holds a fiduciary role, insulating the town from risk. The private trust company, we call them PTCs, personnel are insured and bonded, subject to annual review by the commissioners, which, you know, I know that the town treasurer does a lot of this review, but we also want to be sure as well, and at least have some answer from the town treasurer that this is valid. The trust administration memorandum, administrative memorandum, otherwise known as a TAC memo, should be available for annual inspection or whenever any changes occur with regard to the funds in the pool. It should summarize the salient information, trust provisions, administrative observations, outstanding tasks, and address any gaps in any trust documents or anything with regard to, obviously, our expenditures and things like that. That would be an incorporation between the treasurer and the private trust company. The commission will review the memo and communicate quarterly with beneficiaries, and also hold annual in-person reviews with people. If we have additional funds and stuff like that, we'll hold annual reviews with them to make sure that they're getting the full understanding of what is going on. We will also, the policy also talks about the best practices. Commissioners should understand the implications of the Prudent Investor Act and other relevant Mass General laws, the rights, duties, and responsibilities under those laws, and basically kind of create a philosophy for what we think is the value of the private trust company. Meaning, do they fit the values, that we're looking for investment purposes, for the direction that we're looking at. We want a seat at the table. We believe that they should focus on collaboration. We want to focus on collaboration, consensus, clear metrics for investment decisions, and understanding of, the specific declarations in the trust documents and how the money is going to be distributed, used, and without any personal views to obscure whatever legal obligations there are. So that's an ethics issue, and that's in the policy. Risk mitigation through regular reviews and delineated investment approach. Commissioners must ensure frequent communication with beneficiaries and the private trust company through quarterly reviews covering trust operations, investment performance, principal and income, outstanding issues, and next steps. Annual reviews of state and federal tax returns as necessary that relate directly to our fund. Obviously, we have to give presentations at the end of the year. So, the investment policy and investment policy statements. Every trust should have a stated investment approach. The Prudent Investor Act favors an index-based approach focusing on low fees and adherence to benchmarks. The IPS, which is the investment policy statements, should be a formal written document outlining the trust time, horizon, distribution requirements, its risk tolerance, diversification strategies, performance benchmark, and rebalancing procedures. The commissioners here should be required and shall be required to review the diversification of the assets unless it's not in the beneficiary's best interest, like it's not in the specific trust document for which we've been handed that says you can't invest this way, because we could get a document that says that. The Prudent Investor Act, these are always take into consideration beneficiary wishes. The Prudent Investor Act does not specifically address beneficiary wishes, for example, like an ESG investment, okay, unless explicitly mentioned in the trust declaration. So that's just an example, nobody's forced into investing in any way, shape, or form a particular trust unless the beneficiaries, unless the declaration says this is how this money shall be invested. Explicit policies and procedures formulated to mitigate risk. A distribution policy we should have in place, outlining provisions, interpretations, philosophical approaches to special requests, timing, and clear expectations for the beneficiaries. The fiduciary policies and procedures should be reviewed, that the board approves operational policies ensuring consistent administrative processes are being handled with certain duties of disbursement management. Also, by how we disperse should be, we should have a process for being able to disperse that is clear across collaterals. Guidelines for record keeping. Strong records, obviously, are required for accounting, tax compliance, custody, and reporting, which should be facilitated by a select custodian, which I believe is Ezekiel. Beneficiary meetings and communications and audits, we should be allowed to be looking at that, and I believe a lot of these are overseen by the audit committee at the private trust company, if I'm not sure, and they make a report to us. I'm not certain if the private trust company is providing the auditing. These are some of the questions we're going to have for them. Public education, we want to prioritize over communication with beneficiaries through tailored programming and establish strong paper trail of communication, education, outreach like you just saw here today. Try to give information, try to be engaging, and try to make sure that everybody understands, why, where, when, how, and all the relevant questions. This policy emphasizes that the Board of Trust Funds Commissioners must be dependable in overseeing these funds. must be dependable and understanding to be able to engage in making crucial investment decisions to ensure wealth is managed, meaning oversight, and that money is being distributed according to the declarations of trust and law, aiming for the best long-term rate of return or short-term rate of return, depending upon the investment cycle. As commissioners, we need to have a full understanding of what our responsibilities are to be. Our objectivity needs to be always objective and never selfish, and we must work with only qualified private trust companies and their advisors. Just so everybody knows, any document that we do write as policy will come with a severability clause. It can be adjusted, maintained, it can be put in flux, you know what I mean, by a vote of this board to be able to make a change or an alteration. You know, obviously, if there's a legal alteration that needs to be made, obviously, we're not gonna, nobody's gonna oppose the legal alteration of it or anything like that, or if there's a contract issue. So let's say there's a certain amount of contracts, information in the contract with the private trust company, and it does not coincide with the best practices policy that we've decided to lay out. We will adjust it with that. So again, this is collaboration. We need Bartholomew and Company, we need Mylene, our treasurer, we need our finance director, Ezekiel, okay, Richard and myself, okay, to be able to work together, to be able to finite the control. The only thing that Richard and I I can speak for the board, that Richard and I are strong on is that the people's voice is heard, and that it's not the executive that runs things. The executive does not operate this board. Yeah, we do. And we operate on the behest of the people as being elected, and we will continue to do so. So that is just a quick overview of our best practices. So I wanted to just open it up for discussion with you, Richard.
Nothing specific from your document. I think it's very comprehensive and covers a lot of the issues that we should, as a organization, be concerned about, and making sure that we follow. I think the important part is we really need to understand what the appropriate, based on the declarations, what's the appropriate risk reward, because they are, offset. Increased risk is gonna, put your return at, higher risk, potentially the lower return, and vice versa. Low risk, low return, high risk could be low return too, right? So we don't want to jeopardize, but it's important that we make sure that this money gets put to work, right? We want to make sure the money's growing, that we can.
And that was the recommendation from Budget Task Force.
Yeah.
Why is the money not working for us? And this is why putting these policies in place at this time is imperative, just to give us a framework to work with. And I think that it's valuable that we work with at least a beginning and a framework. And then, obviously, as needed, we can edit it as we move along. Like, let's say if the treasurer says, oh, no, I think in the contract documents it says this, Bartholomew says, oh, yeah, that's it. Okay, well, obviously, we're not going to sit there and say, well, you've got to change your contract to do what we say. They're the pros. So, Bartholomew and Company is the investor. So if he has a contract, he has a contract because not just to protect himself, but also to protect the interest of the fund.
Right.
It's kind of like having a lawyer. It's the same thing. There's a certain amount of integrity. So that you respect, that they're not going to violate that integrity, for the most part. So what I'd like to do is, if it's all right with you, I would like to put this policy up for a vote tonight with you.
See this?
Yeah. And at least have some framework on our best practices and risk mitigation direction.
Yeah, the only feedback on my printed page 6, there was special distributions may require a beneficiary to submit a memorandum, which will be reviewed by, it says, X members of the commission within Y time horizon. So I don't know if we really need to memorialize that, two 2 members, or within whatever that day is, 30 days, 1 week.
Is that on the, okay.
Fiduciary
Yeah,
policies
I'm on the
and
last, on
procedures,
page 6.
Yeah.
It says, for example, special distributions of trust assets might require the beneficiary to submit a memorandum, which will be reviewed by X members, depending upon how many on the commission, with a Y time horizon, meaning that it's just basically giving an example of procedure and practice. That by providing this type of clarity, the private trust commission, company rather, can manage commission expectations regarding how quickly they can access cash in a portfolio. So it's kind of like, if we hold a meeting on a Thursday, we don't get the information out until a Monday. You can't expect them to, if they get it on a Friday, to get it done on a Friday, or, which is by the end of the day, Saturday. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
this is-
yeah, I just didn't know if you were just putting a placeholder there.
Oh, no, so that was just kind of like
Or-
making an algebra that's like, X stands for this, 3 members, or 5 members, or Y time horizon, what the timing is for the investment. So basically, that's up to the, if we say, we want to make these changes, and we don't want penalties, we're going to go, what day is it? And then we're going to plan for it.
Okay. I just didn't know if you had, like, you wanted to memorialize hard, like 14 days, 30 days.
Yeah, no. So that's, like I said, that's an example. So it could be like, at the end of this investment cycle, I want to do this. Do you know what I mean? Or something has to be done at the end of the investment cycle. You can say that at the beginning of the investment cycle and say on the next investment cycle, this is, what we should be doing and where we should be going. Because this is under procedures. It says, the sentence before that says, the private trust company will provide clear, repeatable processes and ensure that its administrative processes are consistently applied, and this commission will understand what must occur before any action can be taken. For example, special distributions of trust assets might require the beneficiary to submit a memorandum, which will be reviewed by so many members of the commission.
So
We
it's
pass
more of a
it.
sequence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's an example saying that from process A to B to C to D, like that, but based on Bartholomew and Company. Because obviously the private
Yeah, we got-
trust company is the one that has to sit there and say, here is the process, commission, on, removing money from your funds. And this is how this works. And this is the way it's set up. Do you know what I'm saying? We basically sit back and say, oh, okay, so now we have to act. How do we act? We have to act within the time frame that has been set up, or within the direction of which the contract is.
And under the normal principles of a commission, so 2
That's
out
correct.
of 3, or in this case, 2 out of 2 would have to vote.
That's correct. And we could say, that's not a good idea to do that right now, or it's a good idea for us to do that right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the real need for the money right now? Like, can it wait till the end of the investment cycle? Is it going to harm the pool as a whole? The prudent stuff that we have to look at to see that nobody else is being negatively impacted by decisions that we make with regard to the money that we have stewardship over.
If we
That
just wait
affects
two-
the
if we just
overall
wait 2 more weeks, we won't have to pay the $600.
That's correct, and so you should wait 2 more weeks. If you have to wait 3 months, well, that's why we have plans, and everybody needs to understand the plan. Everybody in the pool has to know, what's the plan, Bartholomew? When is the investment cycle? How is it used? When do the penalties attach? What kind of a budget do we need? Budget for your money for the year, so you're not just taking money out willy-nilly. There's a board in this pool right now, it just takes money. Oh, I want money for that, and I'm gonna take money for that. Oh, we have money to do this, we'll just do that. No plan, just willy-nilly and just take a vote. And it's been going on for 4 years. So that's gonna hurt the pool as a whole. And like I said, I talked about hedging.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to adopt the risk mitigation and best practices policy as written.
I will second it, and this has to be a roll call vote, I believe. But we'll do a roll call vote in any case. I second the motion. I'd like to, I'd like to hold a roll call vote. Richard, how do you vote?
Aye.
The roll call should be your name plus your vote.
Richard Howard, aye.
John Bowen, aye. The motion to adopt the risk mitigation and best practices policy passes unanimously, and Richard and I will sign the bottom of it. It doesn't need to be signed, but we'll just do that just as a formality at a later time, and have that posted on the website so people can review it. And obviously, if there's any concern, question, or there's some issues with regard to the contract with Bartholomew, or there's a legal issue or anything like that, obviously, you know, we're going to get a phone call or an email. We're going to have to make adjustments. So it's definitely going to have to happen. Do you have the paper?
I have, there's a...
That's good. We just need the signature paper.
I need a signature paper.
Yeah, just the signature papers.
Yeah, so you can fill in
Yeah, there we go. So on this day of July,
24th.
and this is the 24th. Okay, and this has been ratified for that. We don't have any time to go over the other policy, just so people know. I'd just like everybody to know that we do have a vacancy here, that we would be interested in having folks come. Our goals, obviously, we're working on those, policy management, investment evaluations. Planned meetings coming up, August 14th, our regular meeting of the commission, August 21st, possible executive session, or maybe an open session with the private trust company. And other than that, if there's no public comment, or if there is any public comment, I'd like to open for public comment. Anybody? Nope, no public. Dave was the only public tonight, a couple other people, but is there any Treasurer, Finance Director, Commission comment? Nope. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn tonight.
Second?
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you very much. It is 6:30, and the Trust Fund Commission has concluded on July 24th, 2025. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.